Hello and welcome viewers. This is Ravi Mishra and you're watching News 9 live. Let's begin with the latest stories coming in from the war zone of Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces says it struck several Syrian military targets after rockets were fired from Syria towards Israeli communities in the Golan Heights. The IDF says fighter jets hit military infrastructure and mortar launching sites. 8 Syrian soldiers have been killed in the strikes by the IDF. Reports are also coming in of Israeli military strikes caused several damage to the headquarters of the 5th Armored Division of the Syrian Army. Israel has traded fire with Lebanon's Hezbollah and militants in Syria in recent days, a wider conflict over its northern border as it battles Islamist Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip following a deadly attack in Israel. On the other hand, Israel released footage of targets said to be used by the Hamas militant group being struck by missiles. In a Telegram post, the Israeli army said the strikes were carried out on Tuesday and infrastructure belonging to Hamas such as tunnel shafts, military headquarters, weapons, warheads, warehouses, as well as the equipment like mortar launchers and anti-tank missiles launchers had been destroyed. Some of the targets destroyed had been creating blockades that prevented Gazan from evacuating to southern Gaza, added the Israeli army in the post. The Israel Defense Forces (IDF) confirmed the airstrike killing Hamas Northern Khan Yunis Battalion Commander Tasir Mubasher. The Gaza Mubasher was a key figure in Hamas, had a history of directing terror attacks, including the 2002 Adzmona pre-military academy attack and 2014 Hamas infiltration via Zekim Beach. IDF states he was closely associated with Hamas military wing leader Mohammad Daif and had expertise in both military and weapons manufacturing roles within the group. One by one, all the big faces, big leaders of Hamas are being killed by IDF, and these are the latest update given by IDF. Talking about Hezbollah leaders have been reported to have met Hamas and Islamic Jihad leadership as per Hezbollah Al-Manar TV. Hezbollah in the meeting reportedly assessed their alliance with Hamas and things that need to be done for achieving a quote-unquote real victory for the resistance in Gaza. The meeting was held between Hezbollah's Saeed Hassan Nasrallah and Hamas Deputy Chief Saleh al-Auri and Islamic Jihad Chief Ziad al-Nakhala, as per the Al-Manar TV. And clashes between Hezbollah and the Israeli military thus far have been mostly limited to several towns along the border. An Israeli helicopter attack struck an empty position near the border town of Hawla after a missile fired from Lebanon hit an Israeli military position. The Israeli military said the anti-missile attack hit a position in Manara with no casualties. Our brave reporter Manish Jha is in war zone. Let's look at his latest report.
टीवी 9 की टीम इस वक्त इजराइल लेबनान बॉर्डर पर आखिरी पोस्ट पर मौजूद है और जिसके सामने महज 200-400 मीटर की दूरी पर लेबनान का पोस्ट है। लेबनान का इलाका शुरू होता है, हिजबुल्लाह का पोस्ट शुरू होता है। और इस वक्त सबसे पहले हम आपको दिखाते हैं टीवी 9 के कैमरे पर आप जो ये पोस्ट देख रहे हैं, यहाँ पर इजराइल की बॉर्डर ख़त्म होता है। तो ये इजरायली सेना का इस इलाके में आखिरी पोस्ट है। इस पहाड़ की चोटी पर आप इजराइल की सेना की ये आखिरी पोस्ट को देख रहे हैं और इसका लोकेशन हम अब आपको दिखाने जा रहे हैं। उससे आपको अंदाज़ा होगा कि हम इस वक्त कहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। ये जो साइन बोर्ड्स आप देख रहे हैं जिसमें मनारा क्लिफ, गिप्ता और मिगाब एम जैसे लोकेशन के नाम हैं, इस वक्त हम यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। लेकिन हम ये चीज़ें आपको क्यों दिखा रहे हैं और क्यों मैं हेलमेट पहना हूँ और बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट में इस तरह से हूँ, उसकी असली वजह अब आप देखिए। टीवी 9 के कैमरे पर आप उन तस्वीरों को देखने जा रहे हैं जो आज तक आपने नहीं देखा होगा कि देखिए इजराइल और लेबनान के बॉर्डर में दोनों तरफ से जो पोस्ट है वो कितने नज़दीक है। कैमरे पर जो आप अभी तस्वीरें देख रहे हैं, ये सामने की पहाड़ी पे बने हुए घर, जिसमें से कुछ घर इनकम्प्लीट भी हैं, तो वो घर आप देख रहे हैं, ये सब लेबनान के घर हैं। लेबनान का इलाका शुरू होता है बस 200 मीटर दूरी पर स्थित इस सामने की पहाड़ी की चोटी पर जो आप घर देख रहे हैं। और मैं अगर चाहूँ तो यहाँ गिन के भी बता सकता हूँ, तकरीबन 1 दर्जन घर जो है, जिसमें से कुछ मल्टी स्टोरी बिल्डिंग अभी इनकम्प्लीट है। वहीं दूसरी तरफ मुझे जो साफ दिखाई दे रहा है कि एक मस्जिद दिख रहा है वहाँ पर, और कुछ और दूसरे इलाके दिखा रहे हैं। इजरायली सेना ने हमें बताया कि ये सभी इलाके जो हैं वो लेबनान के पोस्ट हैं, हिजबुल्लाह के पोस्ट हैं, और यहाँ से लगातार इजरायली पोस्ट पर अटैक होता है। दोनों तरफ से कार्रवाई होती है। लेकिन आप ये देखिए, अमित थोड़ा संभल कर, थोड़ा सा और हम आगे आते हैं और फिर दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं। आप देखिए ये सारे घर जो हैं ये सब लेबनान के घर हैं, और लेबनान के घर का मतलब ये है कि इजराइल लेबनान बॉर्डर पर ये सब जितने घर हैं, इन घरों में अभी फ़िलहाल हिजबुल्लाह के लोग रहते हैं। वो जो बगल में पोस्ट आपको दिखाई दे रहा है वो हिजबुल्लाह के पोस्ट हैं, जहाँ से वो लगातार पहाड़ी के इस चोटी पर जहाँ पर मैं खड़ा हूँ यहाँ पर वो अटैक करते हैं।
Mishra reporting from Israel-Lebanon border. Fears from world power that the conflict between Israel and Islamist terrorists in Gaza will spill into other countries may be turning into a reality. The United Nations says fighting between Israeli forces and Hezbollah on the Lebanese border is displacing massive number of people. Here's a report.
These are fires blazing on the border between Israel and Lebanon over the weekend, the result of fighting between Israeli forces and Hezbollah. As the war between Israel and Islamist militants in Gaza continues, fears are growing that the conflict will spill over into other countries. The United Nations reported on Monday that almost 20,000 people have now been forced from their homes in Lebanon, most of them to escape the border fighting. The UN's International Organization for Migration says they started tracking the displacement on October 8th, a day after the devastating Hamas attacks on Israeli communities. Hezbollah is supporting Hamas in the war. Reuters recently found this woman in a school converted into a temporary shelter near the border. She's saying she couldn't find another place to stay. Even UN peacekeepers wouldn't take them in. She was in the middle of cooking when she fled, and her neighbor's house was destroyed. Israeli communities on the border have also been evacuating, with dozens of towns and villages ordered by the government to clear out. Hezbollah hasn't fully committed its forces to the war, and it's not clear if or when it may do so. As of Monday, it's reported to have lost over 24 fighters since October 7th. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that if Hezbollah did open up a second front to the conflict, that it would bring unimaginable devastation to Lebanon.
So not just in Gaza and the West Bank, but people from Lebanon are also vacating their places, their houses. My colleague Mishra reports from the Lebanese border. Let's see his report.
टीवी 9 की टीम इस वक्त इजराइल लेबनान बॉर्डर पर मेतुला में है। मेतुला वो जगह है जो लेबनान बॉर्डर पर इजराइल का आखिरी इलाका है। इस वक्त कैमरे पर हम उन तस्वीरों को आपको दिखा रहे हैं। देखिए लेबनान बॉर्डर पर जो मेतुला के इलाके में किस तरह से जो इजरायली डिफेंस फोर्स ने टेक ओवर किया है और यहाँ से रहने वाले सभी लोगों को सुरक्षित जगहों पर भेज दिया गया है। लगातार रह रहकर दोनों तरफ से क्रॉस फायरिंग होती है। अक्सर टैंक से, आर्टिलरी से जो फायर किए जाते हैं उसकी आवाज़ से ये पूरा इलाका थर्रा उठता है। मेतुला में रहने वाले जो तमाम लोग हैं उन सबको यहाँ से कई किलोमीटर दूर सुरक्षित जगह पर रखने की नौबत इसलिए पड़ी थी क्योंकि इस पहाड़ी के उस पार से जो हिजबुल्लाह के पोस्ट हैं वहाँ से लगातार इन इलाकों में रॉकेट या मिसाइल दागे जाते थे। अक्सर इन यहाँ पर मौजूद जो आर्मी के पोस्ट हैं उन सबको टारगेट किया जाता था और फिर आईडीएफ भी जवाबी कार्रवाई करती है और इस पहाड़ी के दूसरी तरफ जो हिजबुल्लाह के पोस्ट हैं, चाहे वो मिलिट्री पोस्ट हैं या उनके टावर हैं या फिर उनके बेस, उन सबको टारगेट किया जाता है। और पहाड़ी पर आपको इस तरह के अलग अलग जो कम्युनिकेशन टावर हैं वो सब दिखाई देंगे लगभग हर पहाड़ी पर। यहाँ देखिए मेतुला में ही स्थित इस तरह की पहाड़ी पर जो आपको कम्युनिकेशन टावर है, क्योंकि यहीं टावर के पास या टावर के नीचे अलग अलग सुरक्षित जगह पर आईडीएफ के बेस मौजूद हैं, वहाँ पर आर्म पर्सनल्स मौजूद हैं। इस वक्त हम जो आपको सामने में जो रेजिडेंशियल इलाका देख रहे हैं, हम वहाँ तक गए थे। वहाँ पर इजराइल की जो आर्मी है उन्होंने बैरिकेड लगा रखा है और उसके आगे फिर किसी भी सिविलियन की एंट्री बंद है। वहाँ सिर्फ और सिर्फ आर्म पर्सनल्स को ही रहने की इजाज़त दी जा रही है। इस वक्त जो कैमरे पर आप ये पूरा इलाका देख रहे हैं, ये वो जगह है जहां पर इजराइल और लेबनान के होने वाले किसी भी संघर्ष को लेकर न केवल ये दोनों देश बल्कि पूरी दुनिया सशंकित है। यही वजह है कि इजराइल के राष्ट्रपति भी ये बात कहते हैं कि हम हिजबुल्लाह के साथ जंग नहीं चाहते हैं, लेकिन अगर हिजबुल्लाह ने जंग किया तो फिर वैसे में लेबनान तबाह हो जाएगा। तो ये हालात इस जगह का है, वो इसलिए क्योंकि यहाँ टक्कर बराबरी की है। आईडीएफ नहीं चाहता कि अभी आईडीएफ की ताकत और आईडीएफ का ध्यान वो कहीं से भी दक्षिणी इजराइल में हमास के खिलाफ हो रही कार्रवाई से बटकर हिजबुल्लाह की तरफ आ जाए। लेकिन चूंकि हिजबुल्लाह लगातार हमास की मदद करने को आमदा है और इसीलिए हिजबुल्लाह की तरफ से आईडीएफ के ठिकानों पर या फिर इजराइल के इलाकों पर रॉकेट दागे जाते हैं, टैंक से फायर किए जाते हैं और जिसके बाद फिर आईडीएफ की कार्रवाई होती है और ये सब कुछ इन इलाकों में बदस्तूर जारी है।
So as the conflict between IDF and Hezbollah is increasing, the residents of the border area are forced to leave their places. On the other hand, Israeli forces are adopting new strategy to get the information about the hostages. Israeli military dropped leaflets in Gaza urging Palestinians to provide information on hostages held by Hamas. The IDF also offered protection and reward to the informants. The leaflets carried the information and phone numbers to call and also a QR code to pass information on a secure line. Hamas had kidnapped more than 200 Israelis during cross-border raids into Israel, which killed 1,400 people on October 7. Despite the offer, residents tore up the leaflets and sloganeered against Israel. Israeli forces are awaiting orders for a ground invasion to rescue hostages. Hamas has released a few hostages and has also promised to release more if and when conditions would be permit them to do so.
احتلال تم توجيه لنا بعدد مناشير من الطيران إلى المواطنين بالهروب من قطاع غزة للانسحاب إلى المناطق الجنوبية، فتم الناس في سحابهم إلى الجنوب، فتم اغتيال الناس وهم ذاهبين إلى المناطق الآمنة اللي أمنتهم إليها إسرائيل، فتم لهم هذا من النوع الاحتيالي والنوع الكذب والوهم للمواطنين. واحنا ناس ولا لنا في تنظيمات ولا لنا في اول ولا في اخر. عباب الله احنا عمال بنشتغل. شحن عباب الدار هدموه. صغار 30 نفر قعدنا ننقل فيهم من ندفه لندفه، اطلع من الشيخ من القرامه، طلعنا على الشيخ رضوان، لحقونا في الشيخ رضوان، اطلع على الواد، في الواد بعد الواد صاروا يضربوا ومش عارفين وين نروح. كل غزه مهدده للقصف.
Meanwhile, we are getting more stories about the invasion on October 7. More stories are coming in. Elderly Israeli hostage who is 85 years old, released by Hamas, said she was beaten by militants as she was taken into Gaza on October 7, but was then well treated during her 2-week captivity in the Palestinian enclave. Let's listen in.
My mom is telling the horrific stories. She's saying that many people, a swarm of people came through the fence. The defense cost 2.5 billion shekels and it didn't help even a little bit. My mom is saying that she was taken on the back of a motorbike with her body, with her legs on one side and her head on another side. that she was taken through the plowed fields with a man in front on one side and a man behind her, and that while she was being taken, she was hit by sticks by Shabab. Yeah, Shabab people. Until they reached the tunnels. There they walked for a few kilometers on the wet ground. There are a huge network of tunnels underneath. It looks like a spider web.
So even elderly people were not spared by Hamas. And Serena is one of tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors living in Israel. She is once again facing the reality of war. Take a look at this report.
During the day, I don't think as much, but during the night, the evening, but this is how I try to be strong. I try to be strong, try to forget sometimes, not to forget because my heart is aching for the soldiers, for those kidnapped, the little children, not even a year old, and they're already there. Horrible. I suffered because of it. Since the 7th month, since October the 7th, I've been sick because of it.
Unfortunately, for some of them, this has been a trigger. Definitely a trigger for PTSD, but not only. The stress of the war, the alarms. Some of them don't even want to go into a bomb shelter. They're so depressed, they don't care if they live or die. It's going to affect everybody in Israel. Everybody will eventually know somebody. It's only a matter of time.
And after 7th of October, the the Israeli attack is going on, and more than 700 Palestinians were killed overnight by Israeli airstrike. Gaza Hamas-run health ministry said that it was a highest 24-hour death toll in Israel's 2-week-old total siege. The Israeli military said it had hit over 400 Hamas targets and killed dozens of its fighters overnight, but that it would take time to destroy Gaza ruling Islamist group. There appeared to be little prospect of a ceasefire anytime soon in bloodiest episode in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for decades. Moving to the next story, the United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, on Tuesday warned of a deteriorating crisis in Gaza with the conditions among the worst the organization had ever seen. Brian Lander, the deputy head of emergencies at WFP, said people in the enclave were in desperate need of water, food, and all the primary needs of for survival. Some people were living in just 1 liter of water a day. Others were reduced to boiling seawater, while organizations like the WFP were unable to reach 1.1 million in desperate need of food, he added. Let's listen in to Brian, the deputy head of emergencies at WFP, has to say about the situation.
Without the ability for humanitarian organizations to reach people in need, the situation, as I said, is only going to deteriorate for them. We know that people are in desperate need of water, desperate need of food, desperate need of all those things that are primary for your survival. and yet the crisis continues without our ability to reach them. So the situation is as bad as we've seen anywhere in the world, and we know in the next days it's going to be very tragic for many. No, it is not sufficient at all. We do not have the access that we need, both to access Gaza itself, but then within Gaza to be able to move commodities, to be able to ensure that our safety of our staff on the ground. We do not have those assurances at all, and therefore we cannot access the people that need the desperate assistance that we can provide. It's only going to get worse. We know that food is running low in Gaza in the shops. From our contacts with the traders that we've been working with, we know that people are running out of food very quickly. We are trying to get food into Gaza. The only route at the moment is through the Rafah crossing with Egypt, but that's very limited, and we do not have the kind of access that we need to understand and to be able to provide people with the food that they need.
So there is an issue of food supply, medical supply, water supply. So many difficult situations are prevailing right now in front of Gazan people. And in a heart-wrenching account from Gaza, the lives of infant twins Wateen and Ahmed were forever altered by a tragic Israeli attack. Their mother was tragically killed in an incident during airstrike.
When these strikes began, they were about to turn 14 months, a year and 2 months. Wateen and Ahmed are breastfeeding babies. At midnight, my sister called us and said she would feed her twins and sleep before they start striking. At 2 a.m. we heard an explosion. We woke up and saw that her parents-in-law's house and her house were on fire. She was protecting the boy, Ahmed, so he wasn't injured. But her daughter, as you can see, is injured. What did they do to deserve this? Ahmed is at home and I'm sure he feels the absence of his sister. As we say, twins are always connected. He is always crying at home and she is in the hospital. After the airstrike, you know we are the closest people to Wateen, but she doesn't recognise us. Her father plays with her, but she doesn't recognise him. Aside from the pain she's experiencing, a while ago there was an airstrike and she started to scream.
So by every passing day of war, so many sad stories are coming out from Gaza. Moving to another story, cryptocurrencies' role in terrorist financing and funding terrorist group has come under renewed security following a deadly attack in Israel by Palestinian terrorist group Hamas. Here is a report. Take a look.
There has been a lot of focus on how crypto is used to fund terrorist organizations and militant groups. So since the Palestinian militant group Hamas launched an attack on Israel at the start of October, the role of crypto in funding militant groups and terror organizations has really come into the spotlight. Hamas itself has been known to raise money via cryptocurrencies. Over the past few weeks, the Israelis have frozen several cryptocurrency wallets it said were linked to Hamas. Many people say that crypto is an extremely useful tool for these kind of organizations. It's largely anonymous. The money that anyone sends over the blockchain, that's the technology that underpins cryptocurrency, is usually just identified by a string of letters and numbers. It's difficult to track, and this means that for militant groups or terrorists seeking to raise money, crypto has become a very popular tool. Now, it's not completely anonymous. Cryptocurrency companies, that means exchanges, as well as law enforcement organizations, can actually work out who is sending the money, but it takes a bit of work for them to do that. The United Nations officials said in 2022 that about 5% of terror attacks were considered to be financed by cryptocurrencies. A variety of cryptocurrencies are known to be used by terrorist groups and militant groups to raise funds. That said, while Bitcoin is popular, stablecoins, that's a type of cryptocurrency that's designed to keep a very steady value, have become more popular in recent years. There are also a number of other sources that these groups use to raise funds. That's anything from charities, shell companies, investments overseas to also raise funds. So crypto is definitely part of the mix, but it's very difficult to say exactly what proportion.
So this was a story about the financial system of a terrorist group, and US is one of the first nation who called this attack as a terrorist attack. The biggest question that is being asked is how is the US military being spread thin across the world, and how the Israel-Hamas conflict is testing the superpowers limited. So let's look at the limitations and the efforts of US. US sent its warships to Mediterranean to support Israel. So the initial step from US was to support the Israel from sea, and US is also deploying a second warship close to Iran so that a big amount of pressure can be put on Iran to stay away from this war. Swift deployment of warship in the Middle East showcases America's military power, because America is superpower, and it was repeated by Joe Biden when this war was started. US remains a colossus in military power, accounting for 39% of global defense spending. And US is sending a message to Iran and its proxies not to get involved. There is a line drawn by US for Iran and other countries who are supporting Hamas. US is reinforcing its support to Israel, and American forces are likely to get involved if Israel gets involved in a two-front war. So there is a chance that America can be a part of this war if the area, the borders of the war increases in future. And American warship shot down Houthi missiles aimed at Israel from the Red Sea. So America is giving a kind of protection from sea to Israel so that Israel can complete its target to finish the Hamas. And US forces spread thin. If Iran and Hezbollah escalate the conflict, America will likely to respond. And China might use this opportunity to take on American ally Taiwan. So there is another dimension which is connected to the China-Taiwan conflict in between of this war. The US is already caught up in helping Ukraine against Russia, and it is a well-known fact that the US is standing by Ukraine in all the situations. And will a three-front war challenge US unipolar power status? That is a big question. Although Biden has cleared it that we are capable to handle both of the fronts. Is China the main contender for challenging American power? That is a bigger question, because China is also looking into the entire issue as an opportunity to become the superpower of the world, replacing America, replacing US. And talking about the US commitments in the Middle East, America is considered a paramount power in the Middle East, and it is well known by the deployment of US military in the Middle East. The US is able to mediate and shape the events between regional players. US sides with Israel, but also pressured them to open Gaza for aid. So that is an indicator that what kind of influence US has in this region. And the US has also been engaged with Jordan and Egypt, Israel's neighboring countries, and US has been trying to mediate with the Palestinian PM Abbas. That is also a big step, big move from US to show the influence of America in this entire Middle East region. Arab leaders also, and Arab leaders cancelled the meeting with the US post-hospital attack in Gaza, that is a kind of conflict between the US and the Arab countries came out after the hospital attack. This derailed America's diplomatic mission in the region. Middle East allies don't want to accept Palestinian refugees. Middle East powers want US to pressure Israel, clarify its post-war strategy. So there is a question, Biden's Middle East policy failed. Is it so? Let's look at this. President Biden wanted to reduce involvement in the Middle East. That is one fact that US was very careful while making statements initially. He sought to end forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. He promised to restore nuclear deal with Iran. He vouched for the two-state solution in the context of Israel and Palestine. Biden tried to normalize Arab and Israeli relationship. However, the Taliban recaptured power in Afghanistan, and that is claimed as a big failure of Biden. US departure emboldened Russia to take on Ukraine. Iraq, Syria and Yemen remain unstable, with Iran capitalizing on the chaos. And talking about China, China is gaining diplomatic leverage in the Middle East. An American ally, Saudi Arabia, signed an oil deal with Russia. So these are the indicators raising the question that Biden's Middle East policy is successful or failed. And can America defend all its allies? That is also a big question, because it has been stated by Biden that it is capable to handle all the war fronts. America is a superpower. So let's look at this. American involvement in the Middle East endanger European allies, and Asian allies of the US will be at risk if US focuses on Israel. US might have to fight on 3 fronts if war breaks out. That will be a difficult situation for US and Biden government. US defense industry might have to aid Israel, Taiwan and Ukraine. So these 3 fronts, or these 3 countries allies to US and likely to be involved in a prolonged war. Ukraine is already there. So that will be a challenge for Biden and America's international dilemma. What is the dilemma? Let's look at these facts also. US needs money to aid its allies, and congressional paralysis in the US creates problem with the funds. That will be an issue in future if these fronts are open for long time. Republicans' America First approach causes another impediment. Republicans are opposed to American aid to Ukraine, and Biden hopes stance on aiding Israel will be different. So these are the in-house challenges for the Biden. In the Congress, these are the challenges, because if America or US has to support these countries for a long-run war, that will be a different political challenge for Biden. Meanwhile, it seems that Egypt is likely to play a major role in the latest conflict between Israel and Hamas. Let's look at the Egyptian role in Gaza and how Egypt is capable to do some negotiation to find a resolution, find a solution to this war situation. Diplomatic spotlight on Egypt is the Israel-Hamas war, and Egypt has a critical interest and leverage in Gaza. Egypt is a crucial partner in any resolution of the conflict. Egypt has played the role of mediator and interlocutor vis-a-vis Hamas. Egypt opposes Hamas but has limited understanding with them. Egypt is a vital lifeline for getting aid to Gaza, because the Rafah border opens in southern Gaza, that is located to the Egyptian border, and Rafah border is the only possible exit point for US and other nationals in Gaza who are still captive in the Gaza, who are still hostages in Gaza by Hamas terrorist groups. And Israel needs Egypt to stop smuggling from tunnel into Gaza. That can be possible only with the help of Egyptian forces, Egyptian government. Israel wants Egypt to arrest any Hamas terrorist escaping from Gaza. So that is an expectation from Israel to Egypt, and Egypt has a very critical role while fulfilling those expectations by the world community and Israel and US. If we look at the emergence of Egypt in Middle East politics, let's look at how politically it is vital. The Egyptian position is so vital in the Middle East. Egypt, marginalized in Middle East politics, is now at the center of it, playing a central role, brings prestige to the struggling Egyptian government. That is an opportunity for the Egyptian government if it breaks any kind of solution, any kind of a peace agreement between the fighting sides. And any player that will fill the power vacuum post-war will need to negotiate with Egypt. That is the critical position, that is an important position for Egypt in the entire situation. Egypt's security of its Sinai region is impacted by Gaza. Gaza will look forward to Egypt for guarantees post-war, and Egypt flexes its power at the Cairo summit. So right now, if we look at the position of Egypt, it has a critical role. It may have a powerful position in post-war situation. Israel needs Egypt, US needs Egypt, and if the people of Gaza need supplies and help, that is also possible through the help of Egypt. So this is a situation of Egypt in the entire conflict zone. Let's move to another story. A high-level committee for social sciences constituted by the National Council of Educational Research, NCERT, has recommended replacing the name of India with Bharat in all textbooks. Chairperson of the committee, Sia Isaac, said that recommendation was arrived at with a unanimous decision by 7 members committee. Talking about the reasons for this recommendation, Isaac said that Bharat is an age-old name and also finds mention in several ancient texts like the 7,000-year-old Vishnu Purana. He added that even the constitution states India, that is Bharat, is the first article. This comes after the name Bharat appeared on the name placards which were placed before Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the G20 summit last September. Let's move to another story coming from Iceland. Iceland Prime Minister Katrin, along with the women across the island nation, went on 24-hour strike. They were protesting against gender inequality, gender-based violence, and to highlight the unpaid work such as childcare, the most often falls on women. According to a study from University of Iceland, 40% of Icelandic women experience gender-based and sexual violence in their lifetime. In protest against this, schools and libraries were either closed or operated on limited hours, and hospitals were handling emergency cases only. As thousands were protesting, listen in to know what the protesters had to say. Furthermore, Iceland's government is also standing strong with the women protesters. Let's hear what the member of parliament had to say about the massive Women's Day off in Iceland.
I think this day is for all women in Iceland. I am lucky that I am working at a company that has equal payment both for women and men, but I am here for my daughters and for all other women in this country.
So it was a nationwide protest by women for gender equality. and protesters demanded the equal treatment in all walks of life in the Iceland.
Check out.
And interestingly, the Iceland's government is also standing strong with the women protester. Let's see what what PM has to say about this. As you know, we have not yet reached out our goals to full gender equality, and we are still tackling the gender-based wage gap. These are the statement, and a statement by the Catherine, and she's also accepting. She is agreed with the demands of the protesters. So why women in Iceland are protesting? Despite equal pay rules dating back 1961, women in Iceland still earn less than men. That's the reason women are on the roads. And talking about 2018 legislation compelled companies to prove they paid women equally, but disparity persists, and that's the basic reason of their anger. Overall pay gap in Iceland was 10.2% in 2021, reaching 29.7% in finance and insurance jobs. So there is a disparity in salaries and income in Iceland. Gender-based or sexual violence affects over 40% of women in Iceland. That is also a fact before the women of Iceland. Moving to the next story, California's Department of Motor Vehicles suspended GM's self-driving car company Cruise, ordering its robotaxis off the roads in San Francisco because of the posed unreasonable risk to the public safety. Here is the full report.
California's Department of Motor Vehicles suspended GM's self-driving car company Cruise on Tuesday, ordering its robotaxis off the road in San Francisco because they posed a, quote, unreasonable risk to public safety. That's according to a statement from the state's DMV that said Cruise had misrepresented information related to the safety of its autonomous technology. The suspension, effective immediately, is a major setback for General Motors and comes after a series of accidents involving Cruise vehicles. Cruise said the DMV reviewed an incident on October 2nd when one of its self-driving vehicles was putting on the brakes, but did not avoid striking a pedestrian who had previously been struck by a hit-and-run driver. Cruise said that in that incident, a human driver, quote, tragically struck and propelled the pedestrian into the path of the autonomous vehicle, which struck the pedestrian. GM CEO Mary Barra, who has previously said Cruise represents a giant growth opportunity, said its robotaxis have better safety records than human drivers. Shares of GM ended more than 2% lower on Tuesday.
Another update coming in from US as Mexico's southern coast braced for Hurricane Otis as the Category 5 storm made landfall near the beach resorts of Acapulco with the potential of cause catastrophic damage, says the US National Hurricane Center. The hurricane reached land near Acapulco, bringing maximum sustained winds around 165 miles per hour and heavy rain. So that's all for now. Keep watching News 9 Live. Thank you.
They picked my husband. He was tortured there for 2 years. He was second force disappeared. We had no idea where he is. Within 15 minutes, we got the information that the whole